Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 499 based on novel. So let's start. This was the fall of the 35th year since Wang Lin left Zhao. In Hu Fen, as the autumn wind blew across the sea to Zhao, it was already winter. The entire country of Zhao was covered in snow like a white jade was placed over it. Only the two lines created by the carriage passing by could be seen. The sound of the carriage creaking slowly went into the distance. Along the path, you could see an inn. This inn was covered by dense, white snow. It was bleak and no one was inside. More than half the inn had collapsed more than 10 years ago, injuring a lot of the people staying there. The owner had gotten in trouble with the officials and died in prison. As for the waiter, he had left. It was unknown where he was or if he was still alive. Over time, the inn that once made the grand scholar of Zhao drunk became a ruin. The carriage stopped for a moment before the inn. The curtain of the carriage was raised up and a burst of heat spread out. In this cold weather, the heat didn't scatter far before it dissipated. An old man wearing white looked at the abandoned inn covered in white snow. His eyes were filled with reminiscence as he watched. After a long time, he let out a sigh and put down the curtain. There was an inn here before and I woke up here. An old voice came from the carriage as it slowly went off into the distance. As the carriage went further away, the voice from the carriage became weaker until the snow covered up everything. Only the cold wind continued to blow as if it would never get tired. An old man's time was short. They could count their own end as they silently looked at the blue sky and white clouds and the snow falling. At the same time, an old man's time was infinite. What was infinite was their memory. They could forget their death in their memories. The speed of the carriage was not fast, and it bounced as it moved along the road toward the small village below the Hengyu mountain. It was dusk of the second day, but the snow continued to fall without any sign of stopping. The snow sealed the earth as the lone carriage slowly moved closer to the mountain village. It wasn't until night came that the mountain village appeared before their eyes. The mountain village in the snow was very quiet. Even the big, astute dogs were all hiding in their houses. Even though they heard the creaking of the carriage, they were unwilling to raise their heads to bark. Every household was sitting beside their burning stove. In the cold night, they would sit by the fire together with their families, warming their bodies and souls. The warmth of the body and soul allowed the mortals of this world to survive the cold winter again and again. Among the many houses in the village, there was a house where there were two large dogs curled around each other in the yard for warmth. Everywhere else was covered in white snow. There was a faint light coming from the fire inside the house that came through the withered, yellow window paper and scattered into the yard. The light landed on the snow, making it look like a tired sunset. It was struggling and was slowly lowering its head before it disappeared. In the fire, one could see a bent figure behind the window paper. The shrunken figure held a thin fire rod and was poking the fire, trying to make it burn brighter. It was an old man that was covered in so many wrinkles that even his eyes couldn't be fully opened anymore. He sat there staring at the fire, and after a long time, he tightened his cotton coat. Then he looked at his right wrist. He was Big Fortune. It has been many years. He should be back soon. Big Fortune looked at this right wrist, where there was a golden palm print faintly glowing. He gently stroked his wrist and recalled the past. He had waited here for 35 years. He still remembered the day Wang Lin had told him to wait for him here until he comes back. He said that there will not be a second 38th year, so he should be back soon. Big Fortune looked tired and stood up with the help of the stick. Just as he was about to go rest, the two big dogs that were too lazy to move began to whimper. The sound of a carriage crushing the snow faintly came from the distance until it stopped outside the courtyard. The door to the carriage opened and Wang Lin walked out facing the wind and snow. Behind him, Li Muwen, who had become an old woman, walked out with a gentle smile. She stood with Wang Lin and looked at the yard and the gentle light coming from the yard. With a creak, the door to the house was pushed open from the inside. Big Fortune stood there, stunned, looking outside the yard. He saw Wang Lin through the blizzard and grinned. "I'm back." Wang Lin looked at Big Fortune, who was just as old, and smiled. The blizzard became even stronger. However, inside the house in the snow, the fire became even brighter. In this house, the master and servant who had been apart for 35 years reunited again. Tonight, the howling wind was very cold. However, the three people inside the house didn't feel cold and instead felt warmth. Only in the early morning did the snow become sparse and fall more sporadically. The sunlight landed on the snow, and although it didn't melt the snow, it made one feel more refreshed. When the sunlight fell on the ground, the light reflected off the snow and made it difficult to keep one's eyes open. In the morning, Wang Lin brought Li Muwen and Big Fortune to his parents' grave next to the village. Kneeling before the grave, Li Muwen also knelt down beside him. The two remained silent before the grave for a very long time. "Father, mother, her name is Li Muwen. She is your daughter-in-law. I brought her here to see you." Wang Lin didn't cry. He pulled Li Muwen's hand as they bowed toward the grave. Several days later, during a blizzard, the carriage left the mountain village and headed toward the city of Su. On the carriage, Wang Lin lifted the curtain and looked at his home covered in snow. In his eyes, he saw himself from 73 years ago when he left home carrying the bamboo backpack under his parents' gentle gazes. Every few steps, he would look back until he could no longer see his parents' figures. Finally, he stopped turning back and stepped toward the future. At that time, he was still ignorant, he didn't know where his path was. He only knew that he had to allow his parents to live a good life, to make his relatives to look up at his family. As he looked back from the carriage, everything became a blur in the snow. He let out a sigh and put down the curtain. The carriage went further away. In the spring of the 74th year, the carriage arrived in the city of Su. In the spring, everything revived in the city of Su. After the snow melted, the aroma of the grass and flowers entered one's heart and was unforgettable. Wang Lin was very familiar with this fragrance. Just like when he first came to the city of Su, he rented a boat and bought Osmanthus wine. He sat on the boat with Li Muwen as he drank wine, watched the sunset and sunrise, and experienced life. Big Fortune was the same as before. He sat on the side as he looked at Wang Lin with a happy smile. "This is a meeting, he will definitely come." Wang Lin held up the wine jug. He had already entered his twilight years. There were even more old man spots on his hand, and they had become even darker. He brought the wine jug closer to his mouth and drank a mouthful. The zither music echoed. It was Li Muwen playing the zither. Days passed day by day. Several months later, the spring of Su passed and now it was June of another year. This was June of the 75th year. The willow leaves flew again as Wang Lin sat on the bow of the ship and drank Osmanthus wine. The world is an inn for all living things. Time is a guest of the ages. The difference between life and death is like being awakened from a dream. Wang Lin laughed as the boat floated down the river. There was a stone bridge before him, but there was no one on the stone bridge. However, there was a white bird flying above the bridge. This white bird hadn't appeared in a very long time. Now that it appeared, it circled around the stone bridge. The streets around the bridge became blurry. It was as if everything in this world had become a blur at this moment. Only the stone bridge and the boat were extremely clear. As the boat closed in, Wang Lin's eyes revealed the brightest glow in these 70-plus years. He stood up and looked at the stone bridge. Wang Lin murmured, "He came." Just at this moment, the white bird closed in and landed on the stone bridge. A white light spread out from the bird. From afar, it looked like a white vortex. Inside the vortex, a person slowly walked out. This was a young man who had a head of white hair. His cold eyes contained confusion as he looked at his surroundings in a daze. When the boat closed in, the young man's eyes suddenly looked at the boat and at Wang Lin on the boat. When their gazes connected, the world became a blur. At this instant, time seemed to stop. To be more accurate, the time in this world did stop. Li Muwen's hands froze above the zither and the music stopped. Big Fortune was sitting on the side, looking at his right wrist. The river stopped moving and the willow leaves all froze in the sky. Everything in this world stopped completely at this moment. Only the young man on the stone bridge and Wang Lin on the boat remained the same as before. "Why don't you come over and drink with yourself?" Wang Lin smiled and sat on the side. The white-haired young man on the stone bridge silently pondered for a moment before he jumped onto the bow. He sat down and picked up a jug of wine. After taking a drink, he didn't look at his older self but at Li Muwen, who had been an old woman for a long time. "Why did you bring her here?" The young man in white drank another mouthful of wine and closed his eyes. "She is here. If you can cut it off, then cut it." Wang Lin picked up the wine jug and slowly took a drink. The white-haired young man silently pondered until he drank the entire jug of wine. "Are you blaming me?" "You are me, I am you. Blaming you is the same as blaming myself." Wang Lin calmly smiled. The young man in white softly said, "I'm still asleep. I used the Tao of deception to create this world. I have no control. This is all deduction from using the complex Tao intent from the 3 Tao fruits." Wang Lin didn't speak. The two of them, or one person, sat on this boat and drank wine while the world was frozen. Time didn't pass. The willow leaves still remained motionless in the air, but the two of them had drunk too much wine. After a long time, the young man in white softly said, "How is this life? Why do you ask me? How I feel is how you feel." Wang Lin placed down the wine jug. "Are you ready?" The young man in white let out a sigh and looked at Li Muwen. His eyes became blurry. "You can go." Wang Lin looked back at Li Muwen with eyes filled with reluctance. No matter how much he didn't want to leave, he knew he was going to be gone. This dream was about to end. There were many things waiting to be done. There were many people waiting for him. "Wait for me, Wana. I'll wake you up." The eyes of the young man in white were also filled with reluctance. He silently stood up and walked over to Li Muwen. He knelt down and kissed her forehead before hiding away his reluctance while sadness filled his body. He suddenly turned around and reached toward the sky. A jug of wine appeared in his hand. He gently placed it down. The white-haired young man let out a sigh and stepped forward. His figure turned into a white bird and gradually disappeared. Although he had left, everything in this world remained frozen without any change. Only the jug of wine remained, as if it was waiting for someone to pick it up and drink it to end everything. Wang Lin silently pondered. Time didn't pass, but he pondered for a long time. Wang Lin arrived next to Li Muwen and sat beside her. He placed his hands over the zither, closed his eyes, and began to slowly play it. The zither released no sound, but music filled Wang Lin's heart. Bursts of sorrow appeared in his heart. A song in a dream has to end, an unforgettable cry of yearning. That year, we met in the country of Hu Fen outside the Sea of Devils. A hunt, a black voice called out, and I looked down. Years went by, cycles went by, we were 2 specks of dust in 2 corners of this dream. After how many years did we finally meet only to pass by each other in a daze? When we finally met, it was the moment before the dream ended. Even if I'm reluctant. Wang Lin opened his old eyes at the end of the song. His right hand trembled as he picked up the wine jug and looked at Li Muwen. This gaze was like the end of time. This gaze was waking up from a dream. Wang Lin held the wine jug and held it up to his mouth. He looked at the heavens and earth, at the world he had lived in for more than 70 years, and then drank the entire jug of wine. This wine was like water, it wasn't spicy. But it was like fire. When it entered his stomach, it burned. What is karma? When I open my palm, it is karmic cause, and when I close my palm, it is karmic effect. The world rumbled. The boat Wang Lin was on disappeared. Along with it went the river, the stone bridge, the countless boats on the river, and the endless willow leaves in the sky. An invisible ripple spread in all directions with Wang Lin as the center. All the buildings in the city of Su disappeared in a flash. Not only Su, but the entire country of Zhao, the mountains, rivers, sects, villages, and everything disappeared in a flash. The country of Zhao, outside of Zhao, the soul-refining sect, Shui, other countries, everything in the world collapsed. There was also the endless sea, the raging sea, the other side of the sea, the other continent, Li Muwen's hometown, they all disappeared. There was also the country of Hu Fen, the country of Xian Wu, the Sea of Devils, and Wang Lin and Li Muwen's home, they all collapsed into ashes. Everything in this world scattered, leaving behind all the mortals and cultivators doing various things. They didn't disappear, they calmly remained across the world. Just like Li Muwen and Big Fortune beside Wang Lin. What is life and death? My left hand is life and my right hand is death. Two streams of tears flowed down from Wang Lin's eyes. After he spoke, thunder rumbled and lightning filled the sky above planet Suzaku. The moment he spoke, Li Muwen, who was the closest to him, seemed to be hit by a gust of wind and turned to ashes. Not just her, but the countless mortals remaining in the city of Su after it disappeared all turned to ashes. In the entire country of Zhao, all those figures that Wang Lin was familiar with or unfamiliar with disappeared. Liu Mai was originally standing at the top of a mountain. After the mountain disappeared, she seemed to be floating there. The wind blew by and her figure became blurry before she disappeared with the wind. Xu Fei and Zhu Rui were originally flying in the air. At this moment, time stopped and the wind blew by. Their bodies turned into ashes and were taken away by the wind. Wang Zhu was wearing a black robe as he stood on top of the Hengyu mountain. The wind blew by and his body collapsed. There was also Hong Long, the Teng family ancestor, and the countless cultivators of Zhao. Even outside Zhao, there was Zhu Wutai, who looking at a young man before him. It was his disciple. Looking at his disciple, Zhu Wutai disappeared along with his disciple when the wind blew by. There was also Yun Kezi, the soul-refining sects Dun Tian and Nian Tian, and Zhu Kezi. Whether it was this continent or the one across the sea, everyone disappeared without a trace. At this moment, this world had no earth or life left, only the sky remained. The only ones that hadn't disappeared were Wang Lin, who was crying, and Big Fortune. In this world, they were the only ones left. When Li Muwen disappeared, Wang Lin's tears silently fell into the endless void. The thunder and lightning in the sky formed a giant vortex. Inside the vortex, inside the dark red bloodlight, sat the white-haired young man. His eyes were closed and tears were flowing out. He didn't want to give up. But the dream would eventually come to an end and he would awaken. That moment would come sooner or later. After completing the meeting with himself and drinking that jug of wine, the dream shattered. What is true and false? When I, Wang Lin, open my eyes, it is true. When I close my eyes, it is false. As he said this, Wang Lin grabbed Big Fortune's right hand and his hand overlapped with the golden imprint on Big Fortune's wrist. He slowly closed his old eyes. The moment he closed his eyes, various scenes appeared before him. These scenes made him unwilling to give up, but in the end they still dissipated one by one. If he wanted to find them, he could only look in his memories. In the scenes, he saw himself and Li Muwen sitting on the boat along with Big Fortune. He saw a carriage going through the snow toward his mountain village hometown. He saw himself and Li Muwen in their home in the valley. Zither music was playing, and it was a happy tune. Their locked gazes seemed to last an eternity. When one looked back, it was impossible to see clearly. He saw himself sitting on the rock on the mountain comprehending the heavens. The surrounding cultivators within thousands of kilometers worshipped him. Among these cultivators, he saw Liu Mai's tears. He saw himself pointing at the sky and roaring near the dead volcano. He could endure anything, he could use anything to deceive himself, but he could not deceive himself to cut his karma with Li Muwen. He pointed at the sky, at the white bird, as he questioned himself. Can you cut it off? Can you cut it off? You can't cut it off. Among the endless wind and waves in the sea, he saw a merchant ship struggling. He saw everyone on the ship singing an ancient sailor song. He saw the defying will against death. He saw a woman holding a baby in the rain outside a pavilion. She was so cold that it was enough to turn the rain to ice. He saw the confusion in Liu Mai's eyes at the edge of Zhao and the pill she left with a smile. He saw his father close his eyes in his arms. He saw the autumn leaf flying away with his soul, going further and further away. He saw his mother's eyes never open again and a smile appear on the corner of her mouth as if she had met his father. He saw himself glaring at the cultivator that had come to kill him, the city of Su. He frightened the cultivator to leave with just one line. He saw Su Dao and saw him being buried. He saw the year when he and Big Fortune first arrived in the city of Su, when the willow leaves were flying through the air. They rented a boat and waited for the meeting with himself. In the end, he saw an inn beside the official road. On the table inside the inn lied a drunken young man. The waiter stood beside the young man with a frown and started to push the young man. "Little brother, wake up. This is really a scholar. Just 2 cups and already so drunk. I have to clean up, hurry up and wake up." He saw the drunken young man raise his head and speak one line with a giggle. "Let me tell you, I had a dream. I dreamt I was an immortal." All the images became blurry fragments when he said the word immortal. Wang Lin's eyes closed completely. The moment he closed his eyes, the sky collapsed. Everything in the dream dissipated. The dream ended. In the dark void that old Ghost John said was the cave wall layer, there was a white-haired young man lying in blood-colored light. His eyes opened. "Fate comes from the void and the void must exist. I understand." In the dark void, the blood light continued to flash for decades. However, the blood light became even more faint as if it would disappear soon. Even if time passed, no one would notice it. No one knew where the time here came from or went. Aside from silence, there was more silence. It wasn't until this day that the white-haired young man opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, a thunderous rumble boomed in this void. This thunder wasn't strong at first, but soon it reached a peak and could shake the world. The thunderous rumble seemed like it was going to rip open the dark void and rush out of here. The thunder instantly became violent and echoed across the void. The thunder was like a wave, and it created countless silver snakes that lit up the void. These endless silver snakes looked like a giant net and shrouded the entire void. The rumbling and thunder and flashing lightning seemed to be waiting for their king to appear. The thunder roared in excitement. It was excited because their king had finally awakened. The bolts of lightning rumbled as they flickered. They were also welcoming their king. A firestorm appeared within the thunderstorm. This fire was 9-colored and rotated in the void, burning menacingly. The 9-colored fire rotated and then the 9 colors suddenly turned into one. The fire was monstrous and spread with the white-haired young man as the center. It burned brightly and seemed to be competing with the thunder and lightning above. The fire surged as if it were welcoming its king. The king of thunder and lightning and of the monstrous fire was the white-haired young man. It was Wang Lin. Wang Lin had fire in his left eye and thunder in his right eye. His eyes were filled with enlightenment, but there was also hidden sorrow from awakening from the dream. This dream had lasted for more than 70 years. These more 70 years could not be considered a dream but his other life, even if this was a life he had made up. He had used the Tao of deception to deceive himself. The moment he woke up, there was a hint of confusion in his eyes. His left hand was holding the madman's right wrist and left a golden palm print. After a long time, as the thunder and fire raged, the confusion in Wang Lin's eyes was removed by force. It was replaced with coldness and determination along with the endless killing intent after he remembered everything that had happened. Sovereign, Heaven Master Void God, and those imperial celestial concubines. I, Wang Lin, have awakened. Wang Lin's eyes were filled with endless coldness. He slowly got up and looked at the void outside the bloodlight. I have cultivated for more than 2,000 years. Today, I'll make the void gate and become a third-step cultivator. Wang Lin pointed ahead. Thunder essence. The heavenly thunder entangled with the endless lightning. In the blink of an eye, all the thunder and lightning gathered to form a bolt of eternal thunder. It floated outside the bloodlight, and at the same time, the thunder mark in Wang Lin's right eye rushed out. It fused with the eternal thunder outside the bloodlight. It formed an eternal heavenly thunder print. This was a thunder print. The 9 accompanying thunders rotated 9 times around it before they fused with it to form a bolt of thunder essence. The moment the thunder essence formed, the void was about to collapse. The power from the thunderprint was enough to shatter the world. Even the void trembled and ripples spread out, causing the surrounding area to become distorted and unreal. A terrifying aura came from the thunder. This aura was extremely powerful, powerful enough to cause the sky to change colors. This was thunder, the invincible eternal thunder. A person who could control this thunder was considered a thunder celestial. The pressure of a third-step cultivator came from the thunderprint and surround the area. Just the power from this thunder was enough to shake early-stage nirvana void cultivators. After this thunder fused with the accompanying thunders, it turned into a chaotic form. It no longer looked like a bolt of thunder but a chaotic mass. An chaotic mass of essence from the beginning of the world that would become thunder essence. This mass had no color. It surrounded the bloodlight and slowly rotated around Wang Lin. Wang Lin's right hand pointed out once more. Fire essence. Wang Lin's voice was filled with coldness. As he roared, the endless fire surged. The 9 colors fused into one to turn into ethereal fire. However, as the ethereal fire burned, Tao intent appeared within. This fire had suppressed ethereal fire and become Tao fire. As the fire raged, the aura of a complete fire essence erupted. All the fire in the void gathered like crazy and formed a fire tattoo formed by countless fire seeds and appeared before Wang Lin. The fire tattoo looked real, but it was actually an illusion, a complete blur. It was as there were countless auras surrounding it, making it look distorted, but the heat radiating from it was hot enough to burn early-stage nirvana void cultivators. Thunder and fire had reached completion. Just these 2 essences were enough for Wang Lin to blow open the void gate and instantly kill any cultivator that hadn't reached the peak of nirvana void. Karma appear. The coldness in Wang Lin's eyes dissipated and was replaced with reminiscence. The aura of a grand scholar, some he had never released outside his dream, spread out. This aura was not something a cultivator could have. Not even grand scholars who became cultivators could keep this aura. On the path of cultivation, in the world where the weak were food to the strong, they had all changed. They had forgotten what it was like to comprehend the world. Only by using the dream Tao was Wang Lin able to save the aura a grand scholar after waking up. The moment he spoke those words, that aura erupted. The karma essence was invisible, but it got gathered in Wang Lin's right hand. When his palm opened, it was karmic cause, and when his palm closed, it was karmic effect. This right palm would become his 4th original spell. Karma print. This video will end here.